But I do get a lot of questions from women and men, and we'll get to the men in a bit. But when it comes to women, let's say they have a dead bedroom situation and their husband doesn't want to touch them. And, for the newlyweds, it's not really that type of I guess situation I'm hearing more commonly about. It's more the 10 to 15 year. And they've written me, I'm talking 5-page letters saying they've tried everything. They've done everything sexually that you could possibly can do. They're just bored. And she goes, what can I do to save it because I get the feeling he's going to leave. So what can I do to save that situation? What advice would you have for those wives or women?
Well, let me get that. These are women who are experiencing that they want to have sex more than their husband or their partner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He's not interested maybe in having sex with her. And she's like, I've tried everything that I can think of that I know to try. Right. And I still can't get him interested in having intimacy with me. And it's just, I've reached a breaking point. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, people do not want to hear this. This is going to be the hottest take on this podcast, I think. But I think that when you have maybe kids and you have a life and you have a vision for your retirement and you have built something together, I think go have sex outside of your marriage. So many people are like, absolutely not, would never, could never, we're in it together, or that's it. And what I say to that is, look, you have a companionate marriage. Get over yourself. You have a companionate marriage. This person is your best friend. You raised family together. You have your retirement plans and your friends, and you're going to blow all of that up because you think that this person should also be giving you sex. Have sex outside of your marriage. Create it with your spouse. Yes, it's going to take time. People's feelings are going to get hurt. Y'all are going to need coaching. You might need some therapy. But consider that maybe this person isn't meant to be your sexual partner. Maybe they're meant to be your life partner, and you just go have sex with somebody else.
Wow. That blows my mind. That is a hot take. So let me ask you this. So is that a swinging, are you saying introduce maybe going into that swinging lifestyle?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways that consent. So the umbrella term is consensual non-monogamy. CNM is what you'll often see it abbreviated as. And that is it. Consensual non-monogamy. Everyone is consenting, including whoever it is that you're having sex with. You, your husband, your spouse, everyone's above board and they've had some degree of consent and say. It doesn't mean that, swinging is one option. Swinging tends to take place with couples. Usually swinging is between couples. Single women are welcome everywhere though. They're welcome in swingers clubs. They're welcome in sex clubs. They're welcome in fetish clubs. Trust me, as a single woman, you can get in. I'm sorry, single men. It's not always the same for you. You don't have the same ease of access. We could talk about sex work. That's kind of where the ease of access is for men, right?
Right.
There's not so much for that for women, but you have swinging, you have polyamory, which is having emotional and sexual relationships. You may have just an open marriage where you're seeking sexual partnerships, but not ongoing emotional ones. Again, this is going to be very triggering for some folks, but I invite you to consider that whatever vision you came up with, like Rudy, you said swinging, right? Whatever you came up with first in your mind is absolutely not the end all be all. There are millions of people practicing consensual non-monogamy and no two people's CNM looks exactly the same. So if that's something that you want to explore, just know that there's a lot of different ways that it could look and there's a way that it could look for you.
Yes. And I can imagine, being married at one point, I can only imagine what that conversation would be. Who introduces that topic or that option? And how do you talk? I mean, do you do it through a professional environment with maybe a sex therapist, something like that, or a sex coach, or do you talk about it? That might
be the right way to do it.
Yeah, as a safe ground, because I know if a man in most cases were to bring that up, that would just infuriate his spouse or vice versa too, because everyone thinks of the worst possible thing ever. And if your marriage or is just covered in insecurities or maybe what's going to happen, are we going to last? That may not be the best option.
Well, because it may still be the best option, but it's going to bring up all those insecurities, which if you look at it from a coaching perspective is giving you an opportunity to heal that stuff that you would never otherwise, because monogamy gives us an opportunity to pretend to live in this sort of pretense of I don't have to face any of those insecurities because there's no looking outside of our partnership, right? The insecurity is still there, right? And the minute that you introduce maybe, hey, we should consider having sex with other people, all those insecurities are gonna be right there at the surface. But it comes back to safety. Do you have a safe partnership where you can communicate things? And the way that it looks like is the person who's not having sex, the person who's tried everything, who's been trying to seduce and have a spicy bedroom and they feel like they've exhausted all their options, goes to the other person and says, hey, sex is really important to me. And I have done A, B, and C because I really wanted to have sex with you and have sex be a part of our relationship. But after 10 or 15 years, it seems like that's not the case. And I'm no longer going to put off my needs inside of our relationship. But here, let me reassure you that you are my number one. I want to stay married to you.
Like,
I want to continue
you.
to raise our children together. I love you. There's nothing wrong with you. I think this is a critical part of this communication. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. I get that you, and I'm not even going to tell myself a story. We're not having sex. It's not about you like me, you're attracted to me, you don't like me, you're asexual, you're a piece of whatever. I got the communication from you that you are not available for us to have a sexual relationship with the frequency and the passion that I'm looking for. There's nothing wrong with you. I am going to get this need met, and I want to work together in collaboration with you to do that in a way that offers us the most growth and the least amount of pain. Understanding that it's not going to be painless.
Of course,
and you take it from there.
I had a friend of mine who, just like me, he's divorced as well, but he had married his high school sweetheart, right? And they, around the 13th, 15th year, they decided to introduce, hey, we're kind of bored in the situation. Let's have a threesome. And this is what he told me years after the fact. So they had a threesome. They brought a woman into the bedroom, and it was okay. And he says, you know what? It's not like you see in the movie. So don't think it's going to be exactly like that. It was actually very uncomfortable, but they kept at it. They kept at it. But what happened is that his ex-wife and the woman they brought into the bedroom connected emotionally. And she eventually left him for this woman. So I think I love the idea. Trust me, I love the suggestion. I'm like full for it, but I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe don't have the emotional maturity to dive in that space because they can possibly develop feelings for somebody they have sex with. And that happens more common than you think. I mean, it's true. People, some women say that men sex to us is just physical. It can be, but there's a connection that develops over time. You can go into something and say, no, it's just the act. I'm not going to get connected, but eventually it does. So there's a danger for that happening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, having sex releases a whole soup of neurotransmitters and chemicals into our body. It causes us to bond with other people. Right. But here's the thing. In no relationship is there 100% safety. She may have met that woman at a grocery store, hit it off with her, and decided to pursue a relationship too, right? Like, even though you're monogamous doesn't mean that you don't meet someone and then fall for them. Now, what I would say is that inside of that relationship, what they maybe could have had in place to begin with was, if we fall for this woman, if one of us falls for this woman, is there space inside of our relationship that we open up and you're able to maintain both? Right. So that's more of a polyamory dynamic. If these people are both, if she wants to be in a one-on-one monogamous partnership, even though they're having sex with somebody else, it sounds like she went from one partner to one partner. But was there space to maybe keep that partnership going? Was that partnership naturally at its end? Were they meant to go their separate ways either way? And this one was just a catalyst. That's just, I would like to know more about your friend, because that is just like one example. But there are so many examples. And you know what the funny thing about non-monogamy is that you only really hear the examples of times that it went quote unquote wrong. That's true. Because I guarantee you, everyone listening, more than one person who's a swinger. More than one person who's having threesomes, who's a unicorn, who's doing kinky, fun stuff that you would be absolutely shocked about because they don't tell anyone. Because they don't tell anyone, because there's so much, there's so much trigger and there's so much prejudice against non-monogamy because it threatens people in a really deep way. And I totally get that. That's the fear is valid. Not doing anything about it isn't the answer. That's true. You'll hear for every horror story, like your friends, I mean, it's not a horror story, maybe it's all happily ever after, but there's 100 stories that just never get told because they're just working.